welcome back to the channel. Capsulaire Landes here for another fleet command course and the last episode on my mini-series related to the Dragoon Storyliner, where I did kind of hinted the use of destroyers to, or some destroyers at least, to go back to storyline mission with a certain safety net based on detectability. Today's episode will be focusing on assessing whether the lower tech version of the Dragoon Assault could also prove useful for either, I would say, less expensive or throwaway ship that you could launch and try to return to storyline, or if you are below Tech 10, still benefit from the strategy that I showcased in the previous episode to go back to storyline and still make a decent ISK out of it. Okay, let's start first with a small comparison of the two hulls. So as you can see from the ship layout, the main difference that we are going to live with if you go for the Tech 7 version is the loss of a single drone, which will translate into roughly 25% less DPS, but also the loss of a low slot, which means that in terms of utilities that you can bring to the fight, your choice will be a bit more limited there as well. Mid slot and internals are the same. If we go back to the modules, you will see that you are looking at very similar, if not identical, ships. So same hull bonus with the drone flight velocity and the DCU activation time, which will not be useful for the DCU part in this setting, in this fit. You see that you get a slightly lower drone DPS out of the drone skill, which means that this fourth drone is impacting much more than just the 25%. Okay, so you will use a bit more than 25% due to the difference in the drone DPS bonus. Drone flight velocity identical, and what you get on the Tech 10 that you don't get in the Tech 7 version is the bonus to drone tracking speed, but that will have absolutely no impact whatsoever, and the signature radius, which could be useful if someone is jumping into your anomaly. That means it will take a bit more time to actually lock you down and give you a bit more room to warp out and react to its presence. So not necessarily significant, but a bit useful. If we push back then the basic info altogether, you get a bit more defense, which is not so relevant either, because you will not get much damage. You are speed tanking the encounters, so not expected to take too much damage, so the difference is not necessarily critical. You lose a bit in terms of flight velocity on the Tech 7 version, 290 versus 310. That is a bit annoying, but I didn't sense that it was making a huge difference in the encounters themselves. Okay, you were still flying very comfortably at high speed, orbiting around your target and the packs, and so I didn't sense any major hurdle compared to that. Warp speed is irrelevant. The power grid output is a bit less, meaning that you will see in the fitting it was a bit harder to actually cramp everything on the fit, but it was not necessarily again too bad, and I will explain in the fitting. Capacitor is another matter. 543 compared to 631. It means that on par I lost a bit over 1 minute in terms of capacitor, and that is a bit more annoying. Means that you need to pay extra attention to your cap management, because you cannot have all the modules. You're not cap stable. You cannot have all the module run constantly. And so if you need to activate the armor wrapper and the drone damage amplifier on a frequent basis, it will be a bit harder, which I did it, and you will see in the combat encounters. Cargo hold doesn't really matter, and source radius 162 compared to 151. This is where I see potentially the most impact. Means that with the actual reduction in source radius, you will end up on the TL7 version with a source radius of 99 compared to 93 with the TL10 version. The difference may seem small, but when you look at the numbers, and that will be the focus of another video, maybe this weekend or next weekend, you will see that it makes a significant difference in terms of detectability and who can scan you down. So I was lucky that in my demo encounters no one scanned me down actually, and so I cannot really relate to whether it will make a difference in terms of I'm being scanned down and I get the signals and I warp out, or I don't get the signal because my source radius is still too big and I need to move, or I will be jumped in. So that is for me the main difference in between the ships. You see main impact, DPS, capacitor management, and the source radius. That's the main stuff that you need to take away. So we were discussing about the feelings power grid wise. You see that I have maintained in the high slot the rapids, and there was a reason for that, is that I was fearing that with the loss of a drone and the significant reduction in my overall DPS, I could get overwhelmed with the last wave where you get like 20 or 30 ships jumping on you, and I preferred to keep the medium just in case something fast would just not be destroyed before reaching me. And so I kept the two medium rapids. You see that I'm able only to fit Mark 9 and not even official gear because of the limitation in the power grid. Now that I've done the encounters, basically, yes, the drone DPS is lower, but it's not that bad, and I was never in a situation where I felt compromised and I felt that I would need the actual missile DPS. So my recommendation would be go back to small, potentially going to C-type small missile launcher here. You will lose a bit in DPS, you will lose a bit in range, but you will get back your power grid so that you can play different games on the mid slot. Because of the oversize, indeed, the mid slot is where I struggled. You see that I have only a single webifier, and that is because that was the only stuff that I was able to put there. If I click on the power grid, you see that I have a 92 power grids that is available, and 91 out of 92 is already full. So I couldn't put something else in there. Now if you go back to small missiles, that would release the power grid, meaning that you could do here like a standard loads with a warp scrambler and a neutralizer. I would go for a medium neutralizer if you can, so that in case of a pirate jumping on you, you're still in a good shape to respond to the threat. And if it's a fast frigate, a fast tackle, you can most likely dispose of it before his friends can jump on you. For the drone layout, I went for Hobgoblin, and this is because of the nanocore. So nanocore wise, I had the Breeze 2 nanocore, and as I didn't want to split my DPS in EM and explosive like I did on the TL10 version, I wanted to optimize, and so making sure that the nanocore would benefit all of the drone. And as I didn't want to get all EM, because you can only choose thermal and EM, which is much more focusing on shield depletion. I wanted something which would be a bit more useful both in terms of shield and armor, and so that's why I went for the thermal boost in terms of the DPS. That being said, if you boost thermal, then the choice of the drone is more or less fixed. You need to push hobgoblins in there, and the only downside is the flight velocity, which is still slightly lower than what you will get with the explosive and EM one. Still, it's quite good. You're just under 6,000 meters per second, so even a fast tackle, you would still be able to H it and deal damage to it. Low slots, MWD, yes, that's core, so you cannot do without it. That's what will get you the speed tanking going. You get the drone damage amplifier, because basically you need to beef up your DPS. You very much lower than what you had on the Tech 10 version, and then you need the armor wrapper. So the armor wrapper is potentially where you may have some flexibility. If you look at the combat demonstration, you will see that I was lucky. I did manage quite well the encounter, so I didn't take any damage on the armor, and I didn't had to basically activate the armor wrapper. That's not always the case, and so that's why personally I do prefer to get the armor wrapper, so that I can stay in fight longer and I can wrap in between the waves. If you feel like it, if you think that you have a good command of the ship and the encounters, you could push another drone damage amplifier. The thing is, with this level of cap, you will not be able to run them for extended period of time. Otherwise you will run out of cap quite rapidly, and that will be a bit more painful to handle. Personally, I activated the bat damage amplifier only when I was facing one of the elite cruiser, which has inherently more HP than the others, and when I was facing ships that were using armor plates or a shield extender, which basically as well give them more HP to deal them. And this is where the nice boost from the damage rig was really showing and shining. On the internal, no change compared to the tier 10 version. So basically the scope sharpener, that's what gives you this low signature radius and make you very difficult to scan down in your anomaly, and you get a range, speed boost, and the damage for the drone, which basically gives you that nice 48 kilometer range, and that's with a 553 in drones. Of course, if you get less than that, then the drone range will be slightly less, but as long as you are over 40 kilometers, I would say you're on the safe side. And I think that's it for the fittings. So let's have a quick look at the costs of the ship. And as for the tier 10 version, I went for the estimated market price from the insurance menu. As you can see here, this is a cheap and expendable ship. So you're looking at a total price of 73 million. Just as a refresher, the tier 10 version, the estimated market price is 630 million. So we have a ninefold difference in between the tier 10 or Tech 10 and the Tech 7 version, which is a very, very significant difference in terms of the costs. Okay, back to the hangar for the final thoughts and conclusion on this this little video. So, is it feasible to run storyline mission with a Tech 7 destroyer? Yes, it is. And the combat encounters, it's only the last wave of For Patriotism. You will see the strats remain the same. You have a link up above to the first video of the series when I explain in length how to deal with the encounters in this ship. But as you can see, it's fairly straightforward. Just because of the DPS difference, we're looking at 254 drone DPS compared to 370-ish DPS for the TEC-10 ship. The difference just extend the time it takes to complete the encounters. For the tier 6, it took me 1 hour 45, whereas as a benchmark, my Dominics would only take me like 35 to 40 minutes to complete the same encounters. So you see a bit the difference, but in terms of being scanned and being a target for low-sec pirates, the story is completely different, because the destroyer, 1, is cheap and expendable, and 2, has a very low scan and source radius, so it's much more difficult to scan me down and jump on me in my anomaly. Could it do tier 8? Yes, most likely. From what I've seen on the tier 6, you could do the tier 8, and same story. You can have a look at my second video if you want to see how the TEC-10 variant is handling. But I would say that this would be very, very long and tedious. I would expect like 3 hours and a half to 4 hours to complete the tier 8 encounters, compared to the 2 hours and a half that I had for the tier 10 version. So that would mean still a significant time to complete it. Would it be worth it? Yes. I mean, for people which are not yet TEC-10, hunting the storyline on the Dragoon would certainly be a meaningful way of gaining ISK. For Patriotism, it's a 20 million reward, about a bit over 10 million in bounty, so you would be looking at 30 million without counting the chest, and that is a 2-hour journey, so you would be around 15 million ISK per hour, which is still a decent amount of money at that tech level. But as I said, the trade-off is really about the time. For higher tech pilot, especially if you take 10, I would recommend going and upgrading to the Dragoon 2 Assault, or doing normal high-sec encounters. If you have a very strong battleship, you can certainly get 60 to 70 million ISK per hour on the safe side. So it's just a matter of efficiency. Go for the high-sec encounters. If it's for a change of fun, you can certainly consider the storyline mission running. It's not as efficient, but it's still not necessarily bad either in terms of ISK. Now I will leave you with the combat demonstration. This is the last wave of the encounters. I think it's the one which is most meaningful. And I do hope that you enjoy the content. If so, please hit the like button. That helps my channel gain visibility and the content getting more popular. If you want to be notified, just subscribe, and every time a new video will be uploaded, you will get the notification. In the meantime, enjoy the game, fly safe, and see you in the next episode.